I have no clue how I'm going to talk about what I want to talk with you about on this video, but God's going to do it. What I want to talk with you about is this victimization mentality that the devil is trying to plant through political propaganda, and how these different systems that have the spirit of the Antichrist, have the spirit of Satan, come together to enforce and promote this propaganda for the agenda of the Antichrist. I'm going to explain it to you, but I want to remind you, first and foremost, that the lens that we need to be looking at things from is the spiritual lens. We're not wrestling with flesh and blood. We're not wrestling with, human agendas. We are wrestling with the agendas of those spiritual forces in the heavenly realms. Now, the way that this came up, I actually mentioned last night and I ended up blocking it again today because I'm just over it. I have been on ever so often, I need to find out about, hey, does anyone have a contractor that you would recommend? What's the emergency that happened in town? Or, things like that. And so there is this app that neighbors go on. I'm not even going to mention what the app is because it's inconsequential. But those in the surrounding area go on this app and they can post things like that. But what happens is people post a lot of things that are just incredibly annoying. And the mentality just grieves me. Just stupid, woke garbage that they keep putting out there. And I don't want to get into the position where I'm arguing with people or I just am frustrated, because usually it leads to grief when I read those posts. And so why put myself through that? So ever so often I'll just block it until I need to go back on and ask about whatever it is that I need to ask about. But recently someone posted that a neighbor decided to take a homeless person in to sleep in their car in their driveway. That in and of itself is not a grievance of mine necessarily, if that person is being integrated into society, being taught how to get a job, is utilizing the resources that are available. But their complaint was that this person walks around half clothed, going through the trash cans in town, looking in people's windows, and basically being intrusive. And all these woke people got on and started getting on this woman. And even one person says, it's none of your business. This guy's doing the Lord's work. The Lord's work. Huh. Interesting. We don't even know what's going on. That guy could be totally exploited by the person, by that neighbor. No clue. So it's prompted me, first of all, to talk with God about this. And second of all, I do have experience with homelessness. I have experience both personally and I have experience professionally. So I have valuable input that God has built in me, valuable experience that God has built in me, and I need to speak it. First of all, professionally, the majority of people who are living on the street are drug addicted. Many, if not most, are choosing to live on the street. This is a lifestyle. It is a lawless lifestyle by those who choose not to be a part of society. They choose not to utilize the resources to help them to get off the street. It is also a systemic problem because our political system wants to keep you dependent and infantilized and victimized. They want to keep you in that mentality. They do not want to utilize or teach you how to utilize the resources that are available in order to truly empower you and get on your feet. Above all of these things is the issue of the sovereignty of God. When I was on the street, and let me tell you something, I was on the street. I was not couch surfing. I was living in a tent on the street. I had been drug addicted, among other things that I was doing in my life that God was dealing with me on. He was doing something. I was not a victim. Yes, I had a very difficult upbringing. I had a lot of adversity to face in my life. God has been doing something since day one. There is no point at which God just, went out to dinner or something and forgot about me. He's known what he was doing from the very beginning. And because I did not take on that victim, infantilized, dependent mentality, and God was doing something in me, and I received what he was doing. I got off the street. I raised a child on my own. I got a doctorate. I built 3 businesses, and I'm sitting here speaking to you now, lucid, clear, having been built by God with wisdom and understanding. But this political propaganda would prefer to have you thinking that you are mentally ill and to keep you drug addicted. And there was adversity that I faced. And you know what part of that adversity was that when I was going to school full time and I would go to the Medi-Cal office and the person in front of me with her acrylic nails and her cell phone was sitting on the phone talking about the drug deals and the gang banging and whatever else she was talking about. And I'm standing in line like an idiot. I've been going to school 22 units per week that I had to petition to take. And I went in to speak to my worker. And once again, they're harassing me because I'm not in school 30 hours a week. They didn't have a template for a person who is utilizing the system for what they claim it was set up for. I was in school 22 hours a week. For those of you who've not gone to university, 12 units is considered full-time. In order to take 22 units, you have to petition the school to do that because it's almost twice the amount of a full-time student. And then you have to consider that there are 4 hours per unit of studying outside of school. But they didn't have a template for that. And I said to the worker, every time I come here, I look around and I see that people have cell phones and acrylic nails, and they're having these conversations like they're just slug thugs. And I'm coming here trying to utilize the system for what it was set up for, knowing that eventually I'm going to be paying back my share. And you guys harass me every single time because there's no template. Do you know that at night when I'm in school, I call my daughter on a payphone? I don't even have enough money for a cell phone to call her. I call her on a payphone to do homework with her. And she said to me, we can't do anything about it if it's a gift. That part, inconsequential. The part of it is that this system does not have a template for the very people that it claims it was set up for. Those who are trying to contribute to society, those who are trying to get on their feet, those who are personally accountable. This system wants to keep you infantilized. And so understanding that, we have to step back and we have to say, wait a minute, I know it's not the system because I know that we don't battle with flesh and blood. So what's in it for Satan? What's in it for him to keep you stuck, to keep you addicted, to keep you dependent, to keep you infantilized? Why does he do it? And why is he able to do it through these minions? And do you see that these minions in these respective systems come together and they testify to each other? No, this is a mental health issue. These people need medication. Who's funding the research? Big Pharma? These people need electroconvulsive therapy. They need their brain electrocuted. They need to be hospitalized. Let me tell you what I've seen in the hospital, having worked in the hospitals. People are not well taken care of. If a homeless person goes to the emergency room because, for example, they claim that they are suicidal, that emergency room will send them to a psych hospital and they will pay for the first 3 days of treatment. And after that, it's on the hospital to absorb the bill because that's a homeless person and they probably don't have insurance. After 3 days, they are miraculously ready for discharge. Someone who these political propagandists claim are severely mentally ill. Nope, they're ready after 3 days of discharge. But someone who has a full-time job, who's gone into the hospital, who has good insurance, they need to stay for a couple more weeks. Something wrong with that picture? So after 3 days, they're deemed fit for discharge because the psych hospital doesn't want to pick up the bill. And if they refuse to leave, they are held down in 4-point restraints. That means they are held limb by limb. They are injected with a chemical straitjacket. They are then carried out limb by limb with someone following behind with their belongings. A taxi is called. They're thrown into that taxi with their belongings. They are dropped off, if not raped first by the taxi driver, and they are thrown out onto Skid Row. That's what I saw when I was being trained by the experts during graduate school. That is exactly what I saw happen. Now, you have a person who's heavily sedated like that and is dropped off in a place like Skid Row. They are going to be raped, trafficked, murdered, mugged, beat. Any number of things can happen to them because they don't have their wits about them. Does this system care about the homeless or the mentally ill or the addicted or the unhoused, which in my day we called that homeless? I'm not offended if you say that I was once homeless. Now, let me tell you what people unapologetically and shamelessly will tell you about their homelessness. It is a lifestyle. Most of them are choosing this, at least at this point in history. They are not victims of that situation, nor was I a victim of that situation. God was doing something. And there are resources, but our faith and our hope and our trust is not supposed to be in those resources. It's something that we need to take up with him. And then he will begin to provide what is needed for us to be restored. And I'll tell you something, that when that begins to happen, when you start turning to God, he will restore you, and you will know that he is sending certain things in order to help you. There's a person who I'm still in contact with today, and when I stopped shoplifting food while I was living on the street, and I started to get a conscience, and I started to take that up with God, suddenly people started asking me if I had eaten that day. And I'm still in contact with one of those people who was kind enough to ask me if I had eaten and take me to Carl's Jr. and get me a burger. And I knew, because I knew what was going on. I'd been in contact with God regarding helping me and receiving what he was doing in me, and he sent that. He sent people to help me. And I acquired a tent to live in, and I acquired an alarm clock so that I could plug it into outside outlets wherever I was sleeping to wake up for the things that were required of me, the things that I needed to show up to do. Loitering around a neighborhood, looking into people's windows, being out of your mind and half clothed is an indication that you're not doing those things. You're not taking it up with God. You're not utilizing the resources. You're not out there doing what needs to be done. You're not contributing to that neighborhood. And it is a problem that we have people in this world who are claiming that it is Christian to hand something out to someone without following it through, without them earning that thing in whatever way they are capable of earning it. We need to be giving reasonable resources and a plan to help people to get on their feet. Sticking them in your driveway is not the way to do it. It invites people to come into your neighborhood and encamp in front of your house. Now you're the one paying the bill. You're the one paying the price. You're the one who has to live in filth while they defecate on your property and defile your property and steal from you and do drugs and break your windows and make you feel unsafe. And this isn't going on in my particular neighborhood, but this is what I see going on in the news. I am thankfully for the moment sheltered from this. It does go on down the hill from me, and it's sickening. It's disgusting and it's lawless. It's not okay. And the reason why this is continuing and this is getting out of hand is because we're not holding people accountable, because we have people in office who keep with this propaganda, and then we have morons who repeat it, who don't think for themselves, who aren't themselves out there dealing with people and talking with them and hearing from their mouths that they are not motivated to change. They want this lifestyle. Unaccountability is a major, major problem in this world. It is a problem in counterfeit Christianity. It is a problem in all satanic systems of this world. God holds us accountable, and he is doing something with that person. We need not interfere with what he's doing and start making our own ideas of how to help them. We need to be personally accountable for being attuned to God's Spirit so that he can lead us and guide us to what we should be doing for others. I don't want you to get me wrong that I think that we shouldn't be helping people, but we need to be discerning the fruit and testing the spirit of those who actually want help. It is not helpful to anyone to give a handout. It is not helpful to make excuses for people and set ourselves up as idols so that we can delude ourselves that we have brownie points in heaven. If it's not coming from God, you're not going to get credit for doing God's work. And as it is, I discern that this is not coming from God. The things that people are doing and the things that they are saying and the justifications that they are making. We do not go and start doing for a person, anyone, a man, a woman, a child, what they can do for themselves, what they must do for themselves, what God designed them to do for themselves. If there is a person who wants help, go through the resources with them. Make the phone calls with them. Let them make the phone call. Let them use your phone. Be there with them. Trudge with them. But if they're not bearing the fruit of one who wants to change and grow, and they just want to loiter around a neighborhood with no clothes on looking for something to steal, it is the wrong thing to do to contribute to that and put everyone else through it for your own delusion of altruism. That is not altruism. That is satanic idolatry. It is an indication that you don't hold yourself accountable, and therefore you don't hold others accountable. You're just living in ignorance. Think about this with common sense. Is it okay to put every child in that neighborhood in danger? Every woman, every elderly person, every disabled person? Is it okay to put them in danger and cause them to live in filth? Those who are being accountable, those who are going to work every day, now they have to worry about someone who doesn't go to work, who just hangs out in their neighborhood looking for a way to rob them. Is that okay? And let me ask you something else. Is this a mental health issue? Is this an addiction issue? Or is this an issue of what is going on in them spiritually? Because I too was not well at that time. And the issue was spiritual. And the solution was spiritual. So if you keep calling it a mental health issue, if you keep calling it an addiction issue, what's going to happen is then you go to the world because you're speaking on the world's authority. Then you go to the world to heal you and you end up worse off. Because what did I just tell you? I told you that this is how the world's healing systems treat a human life. They don't help you. They help themselves. They help themselves to whatever flesh is left on your carcass. And then they toss you out with all of your belongings, heavily sedated, into a pack of wolves. They electrocute your brain. They force medications into your body. And by the way, I have interviewed and worked with people in long-term facilities who will tell you that they were treated as a guinea pig within this system of mental health and pharma and psychiatry, and now they're worse off. I've spoken with people who have told me I was normal. I was sad because my parent died and they electrocuted my brain and now I can't think straight. Please stop regurgitating the political propaganda, even that which is perpetuated by so-called experts and researchers and science. It's all satanic. They join together. There is a reason they join together. You don't see me joining with anyone. The only one that I serve is God. They join together for their own interests, political, financial, glory, and notoriety. You know that that's what's going on. You don't trust Big Pharma. You don't trust insurance, and yet you don't understand that they're the ones who are largely running things and dictating how so-called helping professionals are going to operate. They are the ones funding the research that those so-called helping professionals are doing. Do you see a systemic problem there? Do you see at all why it is that we have insane, nonsensical research and ideology that is continuously being put out there? I mean, is it not enough to even look at what that field is doing with children, that they are defiling and breaking down the temple of a child? How do you justify that? Discern the fruit. Test the spirit. I'm not speaking on my own authority. I'm speaking on the authority of the word. Discern the fruit. Test the spirit of individuals and of the systems. And then you're going to understand what's going on in the spiritual realm. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.